Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Finance Show. Today I have Mia Jess with me, who I've been super excited to get back on the show since we met back in October. She is a women's coach who helps you become certified working in the equine space, also known as horses, and who doesn't love working with horses? So Mia, welcome to the show. Such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
You're so welcome. So pretend I don't know what you do. And if you were to share with our listeners what it is that you do, would you be able to put that into a couple of sentences for me?
Beautiful. So basically, I certify women in a 12-month container. We take you through our 3 pillars, which is business, self-development, as well as expansion with equines. And you come out being able to work in the equine space, whether it's, one-on-one workshops, retreats, through the NDIS system. It's very expansive.
Wow, that's amazing. And do you get NDIS funding to work with you with what you do?
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so I've got to ask the question. How did you end up, I know as a little girl, one of my biggest dreams was to always have a horse. I wanted a horse. I've never got one. As an adult, my little girl still wants a horse, and my adult will eventually get that for her. But how did you end up with horses? How did you end up there? What was your path?
So basically, when I was 7, I've always loved animals growing up. Never had any animals. Animals weren't really a thing in my family. So I went on a trail ride when I was about 7. And the minute I was in the vortex in the space of a horse, I was like, this is my home. So ended up getting riding lessons, got my first horse when I was 10, went heavily into competing. And then when I hit 16, I was like, nah, I'm going to make a career out of horses. So I quit school 2 weeks into year 10. Wow. And then since then, I've done riding lessons, trail rides along the beach and in Kaipo down here in Adelaide. And I've done camel rides, pony parties, and slowly through my own self-development and evolution, with the business of the last coming up 12 years next month. It's really sort of dropped into that self-development, women wanting to start business in horses, because I've explored an array. I've done workshops, retreats, weekend retreats out in Kaipo, and it's just expanded over the time, and now really stepping into equine healing and the power that horses have just standing in their space, and the depth that you can really go. That's where I'm being led.
Wow. Tell us more about that, because I've also heard there's incredible healing power that we can experience with horses. And even if you think how we've evolved over time, a horse was such a natural, organic part of our life. Yet in the last 200 years, we've shifted away from that. And yes, society has radically evolved for the betterment and not so betterment sometimes. Yet, these days, if you own a horse, you're kind of it's a privileged thing, as opposed to something that was a way of life. And I feel, again, just my observation, I feel a little bit like we've lost our connection to the natural world. So can you talk to me a little, or talk to us a little bit more about this power and healing properties that we do receive in the presence of a horse, and why that might be something we want to explore or reconnect with?
So I love when we look back at the evolution of the horses, back in the cart days where, they were carrying us around, this, that, and the other. Whereas nowadays it's we've got them in the fancy, blingy floats, and we're starting them around to the horse shows, like the evolution of like they're starting to become such a sacred animal,
Yeah.
and people are really stepping into, you hear it all the time. There's just this connection I get when I'm around horses, what is it? And I love describing when you look at, the three parts of the horse's brain and the human brain, we don't have that much difference. So we've got the lizard brain, we've got the mammal brain, and then we have the prefrontal cortex, which we need to think before we act, which is basically, our like consciousness and, oh, this happened to us, I don't want to do that. I've learned from that. Whereas the horse, they have the motor cortex. So they're only in presence. They don't think before they act.
Right.
Yes, deep safety is built. So when you think about it, like 66% of us with the lizard and the mammal brain is exactly the same as theirs. So they connect us to those parts with which the mammal brain is all around emotions and feeling and memories. And then you've got the lizard brain, which is our flight or fight response. So they're the parts in this self-development journey that everyone's looking at, their trauma responses, stepping into what's happening in my emotional body, what's going through my physical body, what memories do I need to clear out in that mental body. So you step into the space of a horse and they hold such deep presence. Sometimes with humans, we can have a bit of fear of dropping into safety and expressing ourselves because we may have had some, difficulties finding safety in humans or, upbringing and all of those sorts of things. So you step in front of a horse and you just get total presence, safety, and all the armor, all the layers just fall away and you're just dealing with what's present. And you might get emotional releases, and I really guide you through, and I teach all of my students how to actually guide someone through that process, really working on the Ep8 pillars, which is your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual body. Because you can understand something mentally, like, oh, what's happening? I've got all this emotion coming up. But when you actually layer it off and weave it all in, you get a really transformational session or workshop or, retreat.
Wow, that's so cool. And can you do this with any horse, or is it more so just horses that have been specifically trained to be able to hold that kind of space? Because I know some people, when they get around horses, they get a bit like, like this fear, is it going to kick me? Is it going to bite me? What's all that about?
Yeah, so my facilitators, we work with Lincoln Park Equine Rescue. So all the facilitators, we work through an equine rescue that has around 60 horses. So they're all, RSPCA horses, horses that are no longer wanted. Sometimes they come emaciated. And what you'll find is when you have clients come into your space, they will pick horses that have been on a similar journey to them.
Oh, wow. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. So energetically matching, your clients to the horses, and they will choose naturally. And you start going through the session and the horse is, yawning and releasing and, having body movements, as well as this person that's going through the process as well. So I really teach my students how to drop safety with the horse and the human as well. So doing a little bit of work away, for 15, 20 minutes to really ground the person into the space, and then stepping in with the horse.
Wow, that's so cool. So what are some of the most powerful transformations you've seen in that space? Is there any like particular things that really stand out or come to mind where you've just been like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I just witnessed that.
Well, I'm going to take you back to one which was sort of the evolution of this work. And I tell this story a lot and I love it so much. I had a herd leader, mare, Annie. And she was the most divine. She was an off-the-track standard bred, so she'd previously done racing, and she was my lead trail riding horse. And we had a lady, or everybody else had got on, so we had 3 other people on their horses, and Annie was she was standing behind me with her ears flat back, and she was like, "This lady's not getting on me." Hey, what's going on here? And she's never normally like that, right? And I asked the lady, I said, look, Annie's, not really feeling it. There's some energetic situation happening here. What is, what's going on? What's coming up for you? Are you nervous about getting on, or is there sort of a larger picture here? and she works with, she's a carer for children, and one of her children had actually committed suicide
Oh,
that week.
wow.
And it had only happened 2 days ago, and she specifically booked this experience to help uplift and shift that energy. So we had to go through a bit of a process prior, and as soon as she like let go of that sort of emotion that was trapped in her body, and maybe the shame or guilt that she couldn't prevent that from happening, and the tears started to flow. As soon as that happened, Annie walked straight up to her and put her head right in her chest. And she took her on the most magical experience for the hour. This lady could just let everything go. And, we had such deep conversations about the work that she does. And she went away feeling absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. So that sort of was the evolution of it. I was like, there's so much more here than just running trail rides. And that's why I've sort of evolved it all the way through. And now it's just you step in the space with them and we do that work instead of riding. And that's, then opening up the opportunity for horses that may have injuries and they can't facilitate riding for people.
How interesting. That's incredible. Like, I have full goosebumps about that. Like, I could feel the emotion in that.
Yeah.
Philosophical question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think, if this is the gift that we receive from being in the presence of horses, and being that, this was something we used to experience very regularly, what do you think us not having this regular connection with horses has impact, or how do you think it has impacted us as a society and its evolution over the last 200 years?
I think in the dynamics that I work with, it's relationships. So, back in the day, we used to have such deep bonded relationships, and, it was committed. It wasn't this sort of throwaway, I'm going to get one horse in and then it's going to go out, or, same in relationships. It was like, stick it out until the end, and we're going to like build our farm together, say, and we're going to carry each other through the whole journey of, the 30 years. And I'm really noticing, and this is the evolution of where my work is going, is relationships. Because what's happening is, as people are stepping into the space, a lot of the mirrors that these horses are showing them is in relation to their husband or their wife, or, like I had a client a little while ago that had her horse kept walking away every time she went out into the paddock. She just wanted to get on. She just wanted to ride. She just wanted to have that real outcome focus, right? And we really unpacked it all, and it come back down to, it was the same mirroring with her husband. He was stepping away, and she was really wanting to do something with him and focusing on that outcome focus. We have to do this, instead of just being in presence and going and having a cup of tea with him and having a conversation and sharing that space with him without having any agenda. And she started doing this with her horse. She started doing this with the husband, and the whole transformation of the relationship is now on both ends.
Wow.
The husband's not shut down, the horse is not shut down, and there's so much more gratitude and appreciation in the dynamics of the relationships.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So the relationship in the horses that we're attracting is also very similar, because everything is a mirror, right? All relationships are a mirror. All relationships are the frequency that's running between us. So generally, the horse is often very similar to the close relationships that are happening. Sometimes we get in workshop type environment, if the mother wound or the father wound's really present, or the inner child, then you get that relationship mirror coming through with the horse.
Wow. That's like, what a fun, creative way to address some of those aspects of ourselves that are otherwise, like through traditional therapy, can be really painful and really confronting. Not that a horse walking away from you when you want to connect with it isn't confronting, but the dynamic between it, there's a little bit more playfulness. I find generally people are a little bit more open when it comes to animals. They've got a lot more patience when it comes to animals, and there's more curiosity and willingness to come into that space with them, because there's none of that past like anchoring associated to what you'd normally get with a partner. By the time you've got to that point where you've had so many disagreements or a behavior pattern has been running so long, you just need to look at their face and you feel all of those feelings, even if they've just walked in the door and said, "Hey, honey, how are you?" As soon as you see their face, it becomes an anchor for all of those negative emotions. And when it gets to that point, it's so hard to come into conflict resolution, because usually by then you've got two defense mechanisms that are just interacting and playing with each other. I think this is an incredibly powerful way to have this reflected back in a way that's undeniable, yet also very workable.
100%. It's incredible. And, it's changing the lives of, whoever is a facilitator, as well as the horse, as well as the person, as well as every dynamic around them.
Yeah, wow. All right, here's a question for you. If horses could speak, what would be 3 things you think they would want us to know?
I think they would really ideally want everybody to know that they are enough just as they are, without the ropes, without the outcome, and they see you for exactly who you are. They don't care about your career. They don't care about, what you're going to cook for dinner, all of the things. They just want to see you for who you are, and they want you to see them for who they are. I think this is where that big paradigm shift is happening in the equine industry. Is more horses are coming through and reincarnating that are saying no to this, like, forcibly, almost, you have to do this, you have to, do this outcome, this, that, and the other. Like, there's a big shift happening, and more people are, feeling the energy of horses. They're, feeling all their patterns and things, and, the dynamics are shifting and changing. Wow. So it's asking a lot more of us to step in and go, doesn't matter what job status you have, you are enough. And that's exactly what the horse is seeking as well. No outcome focus.
Yeah, it sounds like it's asking us to come a lot more into co-creation, as opposed to master servant.
100%. Exactly. Yeah.
Which I feel,
again, relationships, it's the same shift that's happening.
The power dynamics. And it is like, even if you look out within the greater relationship groups between like masculine, feminine, mother, father. I was literally on a training, we were talking about the paradigms within the unhealthy paradigms within the father grid and the unhealthy paradigms within the mother grid, and then letting go of them and coming into like the goddess and the God frequency, where you come into co-creation, and there's not a hierarchy there. There's no hierarchy between the two. Both are equally powerful, bring different things to the table, yet they don't, there's no hierarchy. Whereas as we've evolved and we're looking at traditional masculine, feminine roles, mother, father grids, relational grids, there's hierarchy. And even in our relationship with our animals, we've seen them as servants to us. Like, we're this higher consciousness. Even if you look within the way that we still, there are so many animals on this planet, we still eat and slaughter with very little consciousness about it. We don't even think about the fact that it's a sentient being. We just see it as food. Where I also feel very deeply within my soul this shift within consciousness. Like, how are you interacting with all sentient beings? What is your relationship with that? How are you co-creating? And there's this dismantling of this hierarchy template, because the truth is, as we continue to ascend and we shift into more fifth dimensional consciousness, that's oneness consciousness. That means all the parts within us that are ununified have to come into unity, and which then will reflect outwardly, because I think it's the law of, what is it? The law of, I can't remember, but it means as above, so below, as within, so law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. And so the more we unify here, the more we can unify out there. The more we come into co-creation with ourselves, the more we can come into co-creation with others. And each is just a reflection.
And that's what I love about this work. I'm teaching the students to be that and guide them through. And it's no I think there's some other equine therapy models out there where the horse has to shut down and has to be really quiet, like you asked at the start.
Mm.
Um, whereas, stepping into how can we create safety for that horse to be able to just hold space for the other person. So it's a very equal dynamic. It's not the horse is holding space for the therapy session.
Mm.
We're all just working through our stuff and mirroring it, and we are the facilitators that are holding the space, that understand the patterns that are coming through. We're like the translators
Wow.
for the horses, as well as what's happening in the human dynamics. And that's why I take it through for that 12-month container, so that you can really start to embody and feel the work as a facilitator, to then go
Mm.
out and facilitate it with other people.
How magic. And
Mm.
do you have to have any experience with horses before doing something like this? Is that recommended, or can you come in completely fresh?
Not necessarily. Like, with the 12-month container, you get 3 immersions, so 3 training immersions within it. So, there's plenty of time to get your hands on with horses. And it's not, again, it's not a power play. You don't need to know tricks or, how to move them around. It's literally, we stand in space, we bring, the horse into safety and the client into safety. So you don't need any horse experience at all. And there's lots of programs inside to really take you through. And it's a 12-month container. I hold you the whole way through.
Wow, that's really cool. So it's not like a riding course. It's a here's how to do therapy with humans in the presence of horses.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And my own unique spin on it.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
And what about like some myths within the horsing space? Because I do have friends that have horses, and every time I've spoken to them about my little childhood dream of getting a horse, they get they're expensive. And I'm like, I'm aware, and or there's no money in the industry. Like, is this true? Or
Mm.
what's the
I think,
how would
uh,
you invite us to think about it?
yeah. So I think, depending on your situation, what is trying to happen right now is, again, there's a big fall away happening. More horses are wanting to be in a herd environment. You put a horse in a herd that's got plenty of feed in the paddock, you've only got to do its feet and its teeth and, worming if need be at the property. So, but when you're bringing a horse into a yarded environment, you need the hard feeds, you need to make sure that they get out every day, you need the adjustment, so the dynamics in that is it sustainable long term when we look at the primal needs of the horses, that they should be grazing for 16 to 18 hours a day? Yard environment, probably not. My personal preference is not to hard feed, because it's more that processed food. I always say it's like McDonald's
Mm.
horses. I've worked with a lot of horses that have come off the racetrack that have been in those stables and been fed that hard feed just at, what is it, like 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. at night.
Mm.
And the detox that they go through coming out of
Wow.
that is huge. So I believe, that horses aren't that expensive, but it's the environment that you put them in. It's exactly like us. Do you know what I mean? If we were just to eat fruit and veggies all the time, and clean up all of our health, it's not going to be, I need this pill, I need this supplement and this, that, and the other, right? We're just going to eat fruit and veggies and everything's going to be simple and we're going to be happy. Horses are exactly the same. And you'll find that a lot of the mood swings, um, grumpy behavior, all of that will just fall away if you just put them in a herd, because they get to have those 4 types of play out in the paddock with the horse, all the other friends, like they get that
Mm.
social play, locomotor play, all of that sort of thing. And putting them in a yard, then you are their best mate. So when you get them out of the yard and then you want to go work with them, of course they're going to want to play and, kick and all of that. Whereas people would say, oh, they're dangerous, or they're feeling fresh, or, they're a bit naughty today. But instead, they're only asking you to fulfill their needs, their playful needs, which is
Mm.
one of their primal needs.
Yeah, how interesting. When hearing you say that, it reminds me of there's a health program that I did a while ago, and I do it sometimes yearly, sometimes every couple of years, but essentially it's called Wild Fit, and it's all about going back to the. Have you heard of it?
Oh, I think I did hear of that the other day.
So, Wild Fit is all about going back to the natural human diet
Mm,
and looking at how we've got ourselves into the current situation where as humans we've got ourselves so sick because we're so far removed from our natural human diet. I think we're meant to be having something like a array of a different hundred and something or other varieties of fruit and veg over the course of a 12-month period. And when I had to write down a list of all, like I am pretty healthy. I do eat a lot of fruit and veg anyway, but I remember the first time I did this, like I think I only got to a list of maybe 20. And that was just stuff that you see in the normal supermarket. And I was like, wow, like when we're looking at our nutritional needs, if we're meant to have a variety of this many different fruits and vegetables to meet our nutritional needs, and we're only eating within a very specific range, no wonder we're sick. And that's if you're eating fruit and vegetables. Then added the processed food and all of the rest of it. It's crazy. And they did this study on elephants, and what they were, this is going back into like the 50s or the 60s, and they were finding that they would take an elephant from the wild and grow the elephant in captivity, and the elephant would only live for about 20 years. And they're like, we don't understand, because the elephant in the wild lived for at least 50 plus. Like, what's the difference? So they looked at their diet and realized it was because of the diet that the animals in captivity, the elephants in captivity, were getting sick, not because of anything else. And it's the same with us. And I guess the same with horses, exactly what you're talking about here. As soon as we remove anything from its natural environment and we can't mimic that environment, we're going to have issues, behavioral issues, health issues, emotional, mental disorders, like all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And I think, looking into the racing industry as well, these little horses that are only 2, really they're only toddlers, and they're being asked to step into such a space. There's a lot of mental, physical, emotional trauma locked in there, and I believe this is why they get all the bone degeneration and all of that, like the way they've really got to perform at such a young age, when horses' bones, and they're not fully developed till they're around 6.
Wow.
So yeah,
it's a lot for their little bodies to be processing, and
and
they're pushed to their limits.
Yeah, mentally and emotionally for them too. I've worked with a lot of them and held a lot of space for them to really unleash how they actually feel in that moment about everything that they've been through, and it's incredible.
Wow, what does it look like when a horse is having a trauma release?
I worked with a girl for around 2 years, and when I first started working with her horse, he had really bad feet. They always had to have shoes and like these plates on them. He had a very upside down neck, so his muscle was on the bottom of his neck instead of the top, and kissing spine, lots of things. And we started to do the work over the course of 2 years and hold space. He would do like caprioles in the air, which is where they like jump off all fours and then like buck. And he would have these moments where he would really express like, I'm feeling claustrophobic. This reminds me of me feeling claustrophobic when, back in the day. And we would just let him express that. Slowly over time, he didn't have any back issues. She ended up riding him bitless. And, his whole body healed. Like he had like beautiful feet in the end, absolutely beautiful feet, didn't need shoes. And again, it was like there was so much expense having to get the farrier to put all the plates on and, extra expenses. And it's so common. Whereas by the end, it was like $40 for a trim every 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
Simple feeds. His body did the detox. He had a nice relaxed neck. He was starting to build the muscle over his back to be able to support the rider. And I believe through all of that purging and all of that expression, it slowly healed his body, because we have emotional memories, we have physical memories that are frozen in time in our bodies. When we do the somatic work, when we do the breath work, when we do the pillow punching, horses are exactly the same. But yeah, hey, they're like 600-700 kilos on the end of a rope doing massive expression. It's a big space to hold. But I believe that's where my evolution of the work is going.
Wow, that's incredible. And we talk about this in the trauma space with humans. Our gut health and our physical body is directly related to what we experience. The body is always keeping the score. Heal the trauma, heal the body. If there's any gut related issues, it's usually linked back to some kind of trauma, whether it be like a trauma accident or childhood trauma.
Yeah.
because the body just keeps the score. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you start to unwind that, like the back pain goes, the gut health, the
Mm.
insomnia, the neck pain, all of those things.
Yeah, and I've experienced that myself. And I think, again, like I said, that's the next evolution is, sharing my journey with that. I only have fruit and vegetables now. I follow a lot around medical
Me
medium.
too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's just shifted everything for me. And I've watched this happen with the horses as well. So that's where the evolution of that is going.
Wow, that's amazing. Gosh. And I want to shift gears a little bit because I know there has been, like, you've had so much growth since we first met in October. And I love that, like, with this growth, all this stuff that we're talking about, that you're now able to impact and do this on a bigger scale because your business has grown so much. And I know finance was a really big part of that. So can you talk to me a little bit about what difference being able to offer your clients finance to work with you has made for you, and the impact that that's also had on your own business growth and your personal life?
Oh, it's been absolutely incredible. I remember our first Zoom call. I'll never forget that.
Me either.
Yeah, like I can have women that are so passionate about this, that are running 9 to 5, that are, full-time mum, that can step into this space and still be able to afford to do this course. It has been life-changing for so many women. And receiving those pay in full clients for me means that I can invest straight back and ensure that those immersions and all the work that I'm putting in is next level. I know I have a big mission here. I know all the horses in the whole world are staring at me going, Mia, you've been on such a unique path, like share. We're Australia wide now, and
Wow. Oh, baby, like that's epic.
So it's incredible. And, we even had someone send a message through to someone in New Zealand the other day. So that was like the invitation of let's start, really looking at going worldwide with this, which would be phenomenal.
Wow. Oh, babe, I love everything about it, and just the human animal connection. And there is such a greater awareness around how important it is for us as a collective to heal our trauma, and that this space is inviting us into it in a new way. And we're not just serving ourselves, but we're also serving animals. I feel there's a lot that humanity has to answer for with how we've, and I'm going to say this very loosely, inverted commas, taken care of our animals on this planet, because we haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think this is such a beautiful, incredible gift that it's doing two things. It's helping heal the dysfunction that caused the problem in the first place, and helping heal the consciousness of the animals too. It's
And
meeting those.
really taking away from, these horses that are in rescue spaces that, might have an old injury or have that kissing spine that says no one can ride them or this, that, and the other. Well, they can still hold space for this type of work. Like they're not broken and, off to the doggers. Like that's a very, common occurrence as well. As soon as they're all broken, like you don't see value in them. It's like looking at us as humans and going, oh, you're a bit broken, like you have no value.
Oh my God, it's so brutal. Like,
It is.
Humanity really hurts me sometimes.
It is. Yeah. I totally agree. And in the horse space, my heart does break for these horses, and it always has. And I've really explored the edges of how can I help these horses that are there. Maybe they can't go be, a Grand Prix dressage horse, or go be the, meter 20 show jump horse. Like they still have equal value. I see people that, just have horses as pets that look after horses better than the meter 20 show jumper. The relationship is so much deeper. Whereas, there's a lot of those shiny flashcard things of achieving and competition and ribbons, of status. Take that all away. Let's look at the connection. Let's just stand with your horse, see how they're feeling, what's running through their body, what's running through your body, how are you feeling?
So powerful. So if one of our listeners has felt really inspired by this and wants to explore a career with horses, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Probably through my website, just miajessie.com.au. And yeah, we can pop them through and jump on a call. That's generally the first one. I like chatting about all the things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, going from there.
Cool, amazing. And I will have that link splashed everywhere. And worst case scenario, if you're following us on socials, then you'll definitely see Mia will be tagged in these. So you can either private message me and I'll connect you, or you can private message Mia and we can go from there. Thank you so much, Mia. It has been a pleasure and an honor having you on the show. And it's been an even greater honor watching you grow from where you started in October and watching just how rapidly this is growing, which also tells me just how much the world is wanting this, that is wanting this experience, which I just think is so cool.
It's absolutely incredible. You know, we've since that what we launched and had through that finance, we've got almost 40 women inside, and we're going to do another 40 over the next 6.
And just for fun, what was the original goal? How many did you want to fill? It was like 6 or something?
Yes.
Yeah, 6.
So we've launched 4 times over. We're just in the middle of our 4th launch. So, you know, and the ripple effect from that, you know, these are Australia wide. So we're reaching, you know, imagine if Australia wide, these 40 women could reach 50 clients a year. That's the ripple effect. 50 clients, 50 horses, like, whew,
more goosebumps. So many goosebumps this episode.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.